This is Marshawn Lynch. But on Prize Picks, being right can get you paid. So I'm here to make sure you don't miss any of the action this football season. With Prize Picks, it's good to be right. With millions of members and billions of dollars awarded in winnings, Prize Picks is the best place to put your takes to the test. The app is really simple to use and available in 40-plus states, including California, Texas, and Georgia. Just pick 2 or more players across any sport. Pick more or less on their projections, and if you're right, you can cash in. With simple stats and fan-friendly policies, Prize Picks is the best place to make your picks. Most importantly, they don't play about your paper. All transactions on the apps are fast, safe, and secure.
Download the Prize Picks app today and use code SPOTIFY to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code SPOTIFY to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks. It's good to be right. Must be present in certain states. Visit prizepicks.com for restrictions and details.
The Rush Hour with James Golden. Entertaining and informative on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
I just started getting word just a couple of moments ago that Charlie Kirk has been shot. We have very few details so far coming in on this. We're dependent on witnesses. Utah Valley University. And he was speaking in front of a crowd. And in that moment, and correct me if I'm wrong, he was speaking about obviously trans issues in the country today. When a shot or shots rang out, and we can now confirm via Jason Chaffetz, who was at the event at Utah Valley University, that shots rang out as Charlie was talking about transgender mass shootings. Per Jason Chaffetz, a witness there, says he can't say that he saw blood, but he saw him he can't say also that he saw him get shot, but he did hear the gunshot ring out.
He's also a controversial figure at times. He goes into these various college campuses, pushes conservative issues, gets into heated back and forth often with these students on these college campuses. But of course, none of that is violent.
As you know, ladies and gentlemen, welcome, by the way. It is the Wednesday edition of Snerdley's Rush Hour here. Charlie Kirk has been shot in the neck. There was blood. There was lots of blood. There's a close-up of the assassination attempt. So far, it is an assassination attempt that is almost too graphic to watch, but it is on the internet. It was people have their cameras out, as they do in many events, almost every event these days. Already, that second cut we played from CNN, he's being called all sorts of adjectives to describe him, divisive figure and all that. He's none of that. He is a remarkable young man, 31 years old. And I met Charlie when he was in his 20s, when he was just starting out Turning Point USA. And he was at one of his donors' houses in the West Palm Beach area. And I was invited over. And also we had a film crew with us from BizPac Review at the time, and they did an interview with him. And Charlie was just young and outstanding and amazing. And Turning Point had not even grown to what it has become now. It was in its infancy then. Turning Point, Charlie Kirk did what many people in the Republican Party were afraid to do, to actually go to the hotbeds of liberalism, to college campuses, and talk with people, and engage people to talk with him. He didn't just do a stand on the stage and point his finger and give a speech and leave. And this is what he was doing today. It was, you could see the tent, the open area, despite all the hatred directed at him. And you can see this, and this is not uncommon. Turning Point USA now has millions, grew into an organization of started with hundreds, and then thousands, and then tens of thousands, and then hundreds of thousands. And now millions of people are aware of it, if not active members of it. And he grew that organization and has events around the country where he brings, I've spoken at Turning Point events in the past, where he brings voices to speak. But Charlie himself still goes on campuses and speaks with people, not to them, with them. And I have seen, the news doesn't cover it because it's not in their narrative, the outrage among leftist college kids who have done everything from turn over Turning Point tables on the campus to threaten them, to acts of violence against some of the kids that work and young people that work with Turning Point. So violence with members of Turning Point is nothing new. They have been subjected to violence from leftists, and it goes unreported because it's not important in the liberal narrative how violent so many young leftists are, who have because their ideas are being challenged, and nothing more than that, because they think they have the right to express themselves and have their own ideas, but no one else has a right to express contrary ideas. The latest word that we have from Charlie about Charlie is a little bit hopeful. I shared one of the more close-up videos of him being shot with a friend of mine, and she immediately sent me back a text that said, "Oh my God, he's not going to make it. This is horrible. You could just, it is horrific, folks. It is horrific." The New York Times is saying, and other news outlets, that he was shot in the neck. And you can imagine that the blood just poured out of his body. And I'm sorry to be so graphic, but it did. And he, of course, head jerked back. It reminded any of us who are old enough. It reminded us in a way of the Kennedy. I don't even want to talk about that because poor Jacqueline Kennedy, that's still a scene, an image that is just part of the consciousness that will not ever go away during this lifetime. But there are reports coming in that Charlie is still among the land of the living, that he was rushed, of course, to a trauma center. And supposedly right now, some reports are saying that he's taking blood transfusions because he did lose a lot of blood. He's in very critical condition, but he is still here among us. A video shows an older man in handcuffs on his knees. There are some people that have said they have identified the subject. I'm not going to go with it. It's not been confirmed, and I don't want to give any misinformation. Some Democrats in this country, like California Governor Gavin Newsom, who is saying the attack on Charlie Kirk is disgusting, violent, reprehensible. Donald Trump, of course, has weighed in early, asking for prayers for Charlie Kirk, as did Vice President J.D. Vance and so many others, Mike Lee of Utah. This happened, as you know, as you heard, in Utah. But, of course, there are networks like MSNBC that, to me, don't deserve to even stay on the air. And I don't know how they do. They have, and I'll just say that because, cut 22, Carlos, of things that you're hearing like this.
In which a shooting like this happens.
Yeah, and again, to emphasize what you just emphasized, we don't know any of the full details of this. That we don't know if this was a supporter shooting their gun off in celebration, or so we have no idea about.
Yeah, we don't know whether it's a shooting their gun off in celebration. No, nobody was celebrating. Cut 19. That's one too, from MSNBC.
Yeah, we're showing, by the way, our affiliate in Utah and the aftermath of the shooting. You could see people running away pretty quickly, as you would imagine they would do at gunshots. The FBI director, Kash Patel, has weighed in on this. He just tweeted the following: "We're closely monitoring reports of the tragic shooting involving Charlie Kirk at Utah Valley University. Our thoughts are with Charlie, his loved ones, and everyone affected. Agents will be on the scene quickly, and the FBI stands in full support of the ongoing response and the investigation." Charlie Kirk is a divisive figure, polarizing, lightning rod, whatever term you want to use. Why?
Well, he's one of MAGA's most prominent voices online. He hosts a near daily podcast. He opines on almost everything. He's been very closely aligned with the president since his initial run for office in 2015, 2016. And his ties to Trump really elevated his own brand. He was really quite young as an activist when the president launched his initial campaign. And he has kind of ridden along with MAGA since 2016 and built up a massive, massive brand of his own. His group has brought in tons and tons of money.
Friends, we're getting some word. Who just has it now? Just the News? Just the News, John Solomon. Have we had it confirmed anywhere else? We're just looking. Okay, well, just keep me posted on this. I'm not going to go with that yet until we have another confirmation. Ladies and gentlemen, there was also a story, a report on PMSNBC saying that Trump was going to use this. He's going to use this. And how he's going to use it, which is just totally inappropriate. So, anyway, that's where we are. Going to take a brief break, my friends. Horrible, horrible news day. And we will keep you posted on it. I'm not going to go with any reports that are coming in that I cannot confirm from multiple sources just because of the seriousness of all of this. I've been given a report in my ear that I'm just going to hold on to for the moment. James Golden, Snerdley here. It is Bo Snerdley's Rush Hour. Keep it right here. Don't go away.
The Rush Hour with James Golden on the Red Apple Podcast Network. The Rush Hour with James Golden. Entertaining and informative on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
In 1965. Wow. The Byrds released this one on this day in 1965. They began, I'm sorry, not released it. They began recording this song. It became, of course, their biggest. Along with Mr. Tambourine Man, but this was bigger than that. This was their defining record. James Golden and Snerdley here with you. What a sad day. Now, there are other things that are going on in social media. We've been tracking them in real time. Some people have, let me just put it like this. There's a lot of unconfirmed news out there. And so I'm not going with anything that hasn't been confirmed by other sources. By sources that, by the way, I trust. But there are a lot of also comments being made about Charlie on PMSNBC and some of the other networks. And these labels that are put on Charlie Kirk by some of the commentators here, I doubt whether many of these commentators have had the privilege of speaking with Charlie Kirk. I doubt whether any of them listen to any of his broadcasts. I doubt whether any of them have ever attended a TPUSA event, be it an event with the students or one of the events with one of their fundraising events. I've attended both. And Turning Point USA is about this. They're about the America that many of us knew. They are about, and what do I mean by that? I mean the America that was an optimistic view of this nation. An optimistic view of America, what it was and what it could be. One of the things that I loved about going to Turning Point events was you see all kinds of people. You see kids from young people, I don't want to call them kids, young adults from every walk of life and strata in America. And I mean that. You know, you can see some from the very privileged to the not so privileged. You see the black, you see the white, you see the Hispanic, you see this organization attracted young people who wanted to feel like it was good, to feel positive about the country that they lived in and the country that they were going to become the future leaders and citizens of. Normalcy. These people were not angry and upset with the world for just being in America. They were grateful to be in America and patriotic. And this is, I think, one of the keys to why it grew so much. So the leftists today are calling Charlie Kirk, oh, he's divisive. No, he was not divisive from that point of view. It's inclusive. What was divisive to them is that he was going against the liberal ideology. And anytime you do that, you are called divisive. He wasn't divisive. James Golden, and isn't divisive. I'm not talking about him in the past tense. He isn't divisive. We're coming back. Don't go away.
The Rush Hour with James Golden on the Red Apple Podcast Network. The Rush Hour with James Golden. Entertaining and informative on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
All right, just let me bring you up to speed with what's happening here. I'm not going to go with some news reports that are reporting very, very sad news, and you can imagine what, because I'm waiting for confirmation. And the latest confirmation I had from some of the other news courses was that as of 7 minutes ago, Charlie was still in critical condition. There were other reports surfacing out there that is not the case. I'm not going to go with those reports and make any call until we can be sure of what news here. But this is, of course, a very, very difficult day. Kamala Harris, who was in the news herself today, Kamala released excerpts from her book are starting to come out. And in one of them, goodness me, Kamala Harris pretty much calls the decision for Biden to continue staying in back in before he passed the torch to her a reckless decision. So she's kind of torched. Yes, I'm aware of where those source people are texting me. Yes, I'm aware of where those sources are. But I'm not going to go with anything until I have it totally confirmed by multiple sources, period. Anyway, Kamala Harris has decided that now she's going to torch the Bidens, apparently, and say it was reckless for Joe Biden to stay in. Some of the elected officials in the United States are making comments on Charlie's. Pete Buttigieg, former transportation secretary, political violence must always be totally rejected, praying for him and all who may have been injured or impacted. A lot of people are being impacted. And I'm not being critical of Pete Buttigieg's statements by saying, I'm just clear. So many people are impacted by this. I mentioned to you Gavin Newsom. The attack on Charlie Kirk is disgusting, violent, reprehensible in the United States of America. We must reject political violence in every form. Well, the left has been having a frenzy ever since Donald Trump got in office. He survived, as you know, 2 assassination attempts. And there are calls urging for his death every single day. In fact, it was just over a week ago that Tim Walz, who ran for vice president, was making fun of a meme that was calling for Donald Trump's death, or this hoax that Donald Trump had died. And Tim Walz was joking. Oh, someday we'll get that news. Someday. Ron DeSantis. The way to resolve political disputes is not through violence. The way to do that is to ask questions, debate, and attack on the idea that we resolve these things through reasoned debate and elections. J.D. Vance, dear God, protect Charlie in his darkest hour. That was J.D. Vance. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has weighed in, says he's praying for Charlie Kirk. New York City mayoral candidate Zohran Mamdani, I'm horrified by the shooting of Charlie Kirk at a college event in Utah. Political violence has no place in our country. Pritzker. The attack on Charlie Kirk is horrifying. Political violence has no place in this country and should never become the norm. I'm sending my sympathies to his family and friends at this time. You notice, there are lots of things that I notice here that I'm just not going to say. I notice some of the things that are not being said, as many of you, I'm sure, notice as well. Whatever the case may be with this, folks, there has been, and I talked about this in the culture that is part of social media in this country is almost, you have to, if you are a participant in social media, if you're on it every day, there are some days when you really just want to rinse off after you've been online because it's just so, some of the things that you see are so vile. I talked about that very briefly earlier this week when people were commenting on the racial aspects that were coming out after the horrific stabbing to death of Irina Zarutska. And yeah, there were some racist remarks, but no more than a comment on any other day in social media. There are violent remarks. In fact, we had lined up today others of the what should happen with Chicago now that the federal government is in Chicago. There is violence and threats of violence all over social media. And there's no attempt that I can see of reining that in. Violence has become very much a part of the American political system. All of these politicians saying there's no place for violence. There's no place for violence. When you go on the college campuses of America, if you are pro-life, we've seen the violence. The left won't acknowledge it. Those people that are brave enough to go on, including many of the Turning Point USA people, college campuses around the country, with their brochures, with their, and I don't say this in a demeaning term, propaganda, with their story, with their messages. they've been subjected to for years, having their tables overturned, having people try to punch them out because they dare speak the truth about these issues from either a religious, spiritual perspective or from their own perspective to express their opinions. Violence has long been a part of political speech in America if you are on the right side of these issues. If you are on, quote unquote, the right wing side of these issues, quote, violence has been acceptable. If you are in Portland, Oregon, and you are concerned, just recently a conservative reporter was beaten up in Portland, surrounded by a group of Antifa. It's all over this social media news. It never made it to mainstream media news because it's ignored. That kind of violence is ignored by them. Antifa has been committing violence since the 1990s. If you go back, you can see when a lot of this started was in Seattle, 1998, 99, the World Trade Organization came, and these leftists tore that city up. And that was the beginning of this wave of Antifa, this wave of violence. And it has never ceased. Portland has been under attack now, political violence, for over 2 years. And not even the federal government under Trump has dared so far to go in and clean out that rat's nest of political violence. The same people that are today telling us that violence has no place in America's political system, I just want to remind you. Last week, we heard from Brandon Johnson, who was standing in front of a crowd, the mayor of Chicago, demanding that the residents of Chicago defend their land. He was doing everything, in a manner of speaking, as calling for political violence against ICE, against the federal government. Michelle Wu in Boston uses the same kind of rhetoric. Karen Bass uses the same kind of rhetoric. So Donald Trump has now posted it. Donald Trump, ladies and gentlemen, and we're looking to confirm this, Donald Trump has posted what we've been telling you, what I haven't been telling, but I've been alluding to. What does do you see the post there? Donald Trump has posted apparently on Truth Social. Where did you get that? Let me just go on Truth Social right now and just in real time. My friends, let's just take a quick break here, and I'm going to just check all this out and come right back. James Golden, Snerdley. It is America's fastest hour in media. Keep it right here. Don't go away.
The Rush Hour with James Golden on the Red Apple Podcast Network. The Rush Hour with James Golden. Entertaining and informative on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Birthday today. He's 80 years old today. Jose Feliciano. Just one of the greats. My friends, this from President Trump, the great, even legendary Charlie Kirk is dead. No one understood or had the heart of the youth in the United States of America better than Charlie. He was loved and admired by all, especially me. And now he is no longer with us. Melania, and my sympathies go out to his beautiful wife, Erica, and family. Charlie, we love you. Dr. Mikolas has just texted me as well. He said severing the internal carotid artery has a very high mortality rate. So the way that the blood shot out of him means it was a direct hit to the carotid arteries. It's not survivable. This is perhaps, I don't know, folks. It is devastating. That's the word that so many people are using. Devastating, heartbreaking. There's some anger. One comment that I just read is that a friend of mine just said, we're in a civil war. And this is just one of the latest blows in that civil war. What an awful time in America is another one. It's just hitting people so very hard because Charlie was so young, is so young, 31 years old. And look what he accomplished. Charlie Kirk did for the right what we have seen very few people that have organized an entire movement without being a part of the internal political process. He was an outsider when he began. A kid in his 20s going on college campuses talking to students and built that. And one of the things that I think for everyone that is mourning Charlie Kirk, and I am one of them, I think we should want to see Turning Point continue their work as legacy to Charlie and other young people step up. When you have a person that has so much charisma, so much knowledge, so much skill. You know, I talked to Charlie, and I will just tell you, I can't even tell you how disappointed I am. I told Charlie a long time ago, and I remember going in and talking to Rush about Charlie. I said to him, Rush, I just told him there's this kid out here that is just doing, and Rush had heard about it from someone else, as he told me. You know, someone else mentioned him to me too. I said, this kid out here, Charlie Kirk, this kid is doing amazing work. And Rush had told me then that one of his other friends had told him about Charlie Kirk, and wasn't soon after that he met Charlie. But one of the things that I said to Rush, and I remember it, I said, Rush, this kid has the potential to be president one day of the United States. He's young, he's bright, he's in his 20s, but he's already got this skill at organizing people and being able to frame it. And look at all the work that he's done on so many campuses. And now he has been cut down in his youth. I suppose that we will all wait and hear what the quote-unquote motive of this person was that took Charlie's life. Doesn't matter. The act of evil has been done. And Charlie Kirk has been taken from us, from this world, from his organization, from his family, from his friends, from everything that he worked for, because someone did not want his voice to be heard. So the thing to respond is to make sure that Charlie's voice is heard. To make sure that Charlie is not forgotten. That this organization that he founded continues. But we should also have a sense of gratitude that Charlie Kirk lived in these times and was able to accomplish so much. What a sad day in America. And yes, your thoughts, your prayers to the family of Charlie Kirk. James Golden, the very sad Wednesday edition of Bo Snerdley's Rush Hour this afternoon. May God bless and protect each and every one of you, your family, and your loved ones. Love and gratitude for your being here with me, allowing me to be with you, my friends. God willing, we are back tomorrow. Until then, I bid you adieu. Bye.
Thanks for listening to Bo Snerdley's Rush Hour. You can hear Bo Snerdley's Rush Hour weekdays at 4 on 77 WABC. If you like the podcast, share it with your friends and listen anytime at WABCRadio.com and download the WABC Radio app. Hit that subscribe button on all major podcast platforms. Plus, follow WABC on social on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and X. See you next time for a new episode so you never have to wonder.
What the heck is going on here?